Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am going to be talking about my absolute favorite foundations because I have just done a humongous declutter. I actually did film the declutter, but it wasn't really in focus, so that was kind of a bummer. And I ended up throwing out or giving away, donating what I could, all the products. So unfortunately, I did not get that on camera, but I have decluttered so much. I had over 50 foundations and I have narrowed it down to my top. I would like to keep it at a top 10 list so that I only have 10 foundations in my collection. Otherwise, I just find it too overwhelming. And I am someone, when I get overwhelmed with my collection, be it clothes or makeup or shoes, if I have too many products, I end up just reaching for the exact same pair because I am too overwhelmed to pick stuff. So having a curated collection really is what is best for me. So again, I've gone through my collection and these are my absolute 10 favorite foundations. They are products. Again, I will go over each and every one, but out of all the foundations, these are the 10 that I chose. So a little bit about my skin type. I have dry skin. I am 34, turning 35 this year. And I guess I prefer a lighter coverage. I would say light buildable to medium coverage. I obviously have foundations that are more buildable just for special occasions. I tend to prefer maybe a little bit more coverage. I like a foundation that is very blurring on the skin. I like it to be blurring, but I still don't want it to be a very mattifying foundation or something with heavy coverage. I like that really beautiful filtered effect without a lot of coverage. So a lot of those foundations will reflect that. And while I'm going through, I'm going to go through like my list of each that I've kept. So like I'll go through my top foundations, concealers, bronzers, etc. And I've made a new rule for myself. And I had this as a rule about 2 years ago, but I'm really going to follow through with it. And I'm going to show you when I purchase a new product, whether it be a foundation or a blush, I am going to have a 1 in, 1 out rule, because I just don't want to get overwhelmed with products again. So when I bring in a new foundation, I'm going to show you a foundation I'm getting rid of because I'm just kind of bored with new makeup anyways. There has been no new releases that are really intriguing me. So a release is going to have to be very special for me to get to spend my money on it. But let's just get started with all the products. I am going to start off, just randomly. Let's start off with this Chantecaille Future Skin Oil-Free Gel Foundation. So this foundation was reformulated this year, and I am so happy with this reformulation. I actually do prefer the reformulation. There is something a little bit more blurring about this foundation, and it's a little bit more skin soothing. I would say it has a little bit more coverage as well, and I feel like it's a little bit more matte on the skin. This is by no means a matte foundation, but to me, there was just a little bit more of a mattifying property to it. Again, it's not mattifying, but I would really classify this as a skin-like finish. This really mimics your skin. To me, the finish is not too glowy, but it's also not too matte. It is that perfect skin finish on my complexion. This has beautiful blurring properties. This gives you a really smoothed effect. It's a really plumping effect as well. This just gives you really healthy looking skin. I let you guys know that my mom also picked this up when Chantecaille was having their big sale. She picked up the shade Vanilla, and she loves this foundation. She was finding that her Chanel Sublimage Le Teint, like this is foundation she has been using for, I want to say like 4 years at least. And sometimes foundations just after a big amount of time or you've had them for a while, sometimes they just don't perform the same. And she was just noticing that that foundation wasn't performing the same. It was looking a little bit heavy on her skin. But she said that she absolutely loves this foundation. She said it's so lightweight on her skin. It just feels really healthy. She said that she loves that when she looks in the mirror, she doesn't see makeup sitting on her skin, but yet her skin looks more beautiful. So it's one of those really beauty enhancing products without it looking like makeup on your skin, but yet you still feel more put together. So she really loves this on her mature skin. She said it lasts all day long. Again, she bought this in the summertime when we were having quite hot, humid weather, and she said it held up really beautifully, and she really loved the way this looked on her skin. So I think that says a lot that I can use it, and I'm in my 30s, and my mom, who's in her 60s, can use it as well. Again, I always need to have her back on the channel because that's one of my most requested videos, but this is just a gorgeous foundation. So I have the shade Vanilla, which I can wear when my tan is fading. Basically, after like the 4th day I've had fake tan on, this is the color that I will be. And then the shade Nude is perfect when I'm freshly fake tanned or like the first few days of my fake tan. I don't have a color that actually matches my real complexion. I don't think I've ever showed you guys what my natural complexion is. I always have fake tan on, but I'm basically the lightest foundation shade. I am the lightest foundation shade. I am very, 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 very porcelain. And I just love this foundation. It is so gorgeous. I have literally nothing bad to say about it. And especially for a luxury foundation, for it to not have a fragrance is so refreshing because so many luxury beauty houses put these perfumey fragrances in foundations and I hate them so much. But this is so nice to not have a fragrance. And they upgraded the bottle of this. This used to be a plastic jar, but it is now glass. This is microplastic free. So I just can't say enough good things about this foundation. Let's just talk about a foundation that I would say people always ask me in comparison about these foundations. This is the Peau, the foundation. And I actually have both of these in the exact same shade. I'm not sure why I bought two of them. One is almost empty. I have like, I'm going to say probably like 2 applications left. And then this one is more full, but it's still like 3/4 of the way gone. This also is a glass container, and this is it in comparison to the Chantecaille one. So the Peau one is even more of an elevated version than the Chantecaille. Like that is just outrageously beautiful. It is the most expensive foundation I have ever tried. It is very, very pricey. But this is such a beautiful, this is almost like a tinted cream, I would say. This is definitely more moisturizing than the Chantecaille Future Skin Foundation. So if you found this one a little bit more drying, then you might want to try the Peau. Like say you just have super, super, super dry skin. This is a really lovely foundation because it just makes your skin look so healthy, so youthful. It brings youth back into your skin because it gives you that hydration, but it's not a greasy hydration where your skin looks too glowy or too greasy by the end of the day. The previous version did have the tendency to get a little bit too glowy, but I think they really perfected the beautiful balance of this foundation where it looks very hydrated without your skin looking greasy. And again, it's one of the best blurring foundations as well. Even though it is a more hydrating foundation, it still does a beautiful job of filtering and smoothing and blurring the skin. I love this. I will say this foundation does run a little bit light. I wear the shade 040. I actually would probably change it to B40 because this is a little bit too warm toned for me. I'm more of like a neutral, cooler toned, especially my natural skin. I'm like fair, cool skin. That is my natural skin tone. So I think I probably lean a little bit more cooler and this is just a little bit too warm tone. So when I repurchase this, I will purchase a different shade, but just for reference, 040 is a really good, if you're like a Chanel B30, this is the shade I would recommend for you, or like a BD 41. This is the shade I would recommend for you because this definitely leans a little bit warmer, but it's such a gorgeous foundation if you are someone that's looking for hydration. But again, a light buildable to a light medium, and the Chantecaille foundation is light buildable to a medium coverage, not quite a medium coverage, but you couldn't really build it past that. So obviously this is a great everyday foundation. This is the foundation that I'm wearing today, this Chantecaille one. I just love how it looks in every situation. I've worn this to weddings, I've worn this just to the gym, I've worn this to run errands. I can wear it for any occasion and it always performs just so beautifully. Let's just do all the jar foundations. So this is the Chanel Sublimage Le Teint, and this is the one foundation that I'm considering also decluttering because, like I said, I only want a 10 foundation. And I think I do have over 10. So this is a consideration to declutter because it's kind of my last place foundation, even though this is a really beautiful foundation. I do really like this foundation because this is, out of all these foundations, this is the most mattifying foundation and it also has the most coverage. So this is definitely a medium coverage. It starts at medium and it's buildable to a fuller coverage, but it is so gorgeously blurring and that's why I want to keep it. It's one of the best blurring foundations, but sometimes I find it a little bit too masky on my skin and I find it hard to control the amount of product because you literally just need the tiniest bit. A little bit goes a very, very, very long way with this foundation. I have this foundation in the shade 30 Beige. And again, I do think this foundation runs a teeny bit light, but I still think that 30 is probably the best match for me. 40 is just a little bit too deep. so I can just go in with some bronzers and stuff like that to deepen it up a little bit. But it's just a really lovely foundation. But again, I find it hard to control sometimes, and it's a foundation that I don't reach for all the time just because it is a little bit too mattifying for me. This is the type of foundation that I put on and I don't love it right away. I always think, it looks a little bit heavy on my skin. I don't love the way my skin looks, but the magic happens 4 hours into you wearing it, 2 to 4 hours into you wearing it. It becomes one with your complexion and starts to melt into the skin. I think it just kind of melds with everything, looks a little bit more skin-like, so that I actually love this foundation as I wear it, which is very rare for a foundation because a lot of times you think that you love a foundation initially and then as it wears away, you tend to not love how it looks. But this is the opposite, where I love it the more I wear it. I find even after 8 hours, I still love the way it looks on the skin. It's just within the first 4 hours, I don't love how it looks because sometimes I think it just looks a little bit too heavy, sometimes borderline on cakey, which is why, again, because I don't reach for it all the time, I typically just reach for this for special occasions when I know that I'm maybe not going to the occasion right away where I have like 2 hours to wait in between. Maybe I'll go for like a drink before or something like that. So because I don't reach for this one very often, that is why I'm considering getting rid of it. But I really love this foundation. And I got rid of so many foundations. Like I got rid of all my Armani foundations. I only have a handful of Chanel foundations, but most of them I did declutter, like the Chanel Le Beige Healthy Glow. That one is just not a foundation I like. The Le Teint, I don't love that one, so I decluttered that one. So there are a lot of Chanel foundations that I decluttered out of my collection, and same with like Dior foundations. I only kept a few. Again, you'll see which ones I chose, but I got rid of so many foundations. Let's move back to more skin tints. So let's move to Chantecaille. This is the Chantecaille Just Skin Tinted Moisturizer, and I have 3 of these shades because I love it so much. Chantecaille did send me 2 of these shades, and then I purchased one because I'll explain it. But basically, I have my shade for when I'm more self-tanned, which is the shade Glow. This is when I'm like freshly self-tanned or I've put on 2 layers. This is the darkest I ever get. This, again, is the shade Glow. It is like a medium shade, and it does lean a little bit warmer. I preferably would have chosen a more neutral shade, but I also have the shade Vanilla, which is a really nice, light, medium, neutral tone. And this is like my perfect, again, 3 days into my fake tan, or it's fading away. Vanilla works really well for me. And then I also chose the shade Alabaster, which I believe is a light tone. It used to be Chantecaille's lightest tone. But this is actually too dark for me when I don't have self-tan on. I just tried it yesterday when I had no self-tan on, and I was like, wow, that's actually too dark for me. And this is the lightest foundation that I currently have in my collection. So I need to buy a lighter one. I think they released a shade called Aura, which is a lighter shade. So hopefully that shade would actually work for my natural skin complexion because all these other shades are too dark. But I wanted a lighter one, again, because if I don't have a self-tan on, or sometimes if I just apply a fake tan, and then that day I wash it off, you're not as dark as you actually go. So a lot of the times these foundations end up being too dark for me. So I wanted a foundation I could mix into my darker foundations to lighten them up, either as my tan fades away. Anyways, having a fake tan is very high maintenance. So that's why I kind of want to lighten up my foundations and not wear as much fake tan because it's just very high maintenance. But anyways, this foundation, let's just get on to the product. You don't care about my fake tan. But this foundation is so gorgeous. This is a tinted moisturizer, but it's so much more than a tinted moisturizer because it gives you a really beautiful light coverage. It goes on in a really beautiful smoothing way. It is a smoothing foundation. Like when you apply it, your pores, any texture that you have on your skin just is really gorgeously evened out. But again, it's evened out in a way where it's not adding a ton of coverage. Your skin just looks more even and smooth, and it's just such a lovely foundation because, again, it's not a tinted moisturizer that is going to leave you overly hydrated, that's going to leave you looking greasy late. This is not a kind of tinted moisturizer that's going to leave you looking too hydrated or too greasy at the end of the day where you feel like, oh my gosh, my makeup just looks terrible. This is just such a sophisticated tinted moisturizer. This is a luxury tinted moisturizer that I think it's the only tinted moisturizer I kept because this is just such a holy grail for me. Whenever I try another product, it never compares to this. if I was creating my own tinted moisturizer, this is what I would want it to be. This is perfect for me. It's not too dewy. It's not too matte. It's that perfect in between. It's not too much coverage. It's not too light of coverage. Your skin just looks like skin when you are wearing this product. Chantecaille just knows how to do complexion products right. And again, there is no fragrance in this product. So you can be rest assured if you are someone that has sensitive skin that you can use this product. And I do like that it's in this squeezy tube. Obviously, it's not as sophisticated looking as this, but I think this is supposed to be a more easy breezy application. You're supposed to be able to travel with this foundation. This is supposed to be everyday friendly for every type of woman when you're on the go. A lot of people who are working, like if you are a working woman and you have to travel a lot during the week, this would be perfect to take with you because again, you're not gonna have to worry about it breaking. It's not obnoxious. It's just it's a lot easier to throw into your travel makeup bag than some other products. So I think it's just such a perfect product and I love it so much, which is why I have 3 shades of it. Sometimes Chantecaille will ask, like they will message me or email me and say like, do you have any products that you would like to get a backup of? And I always choose one of these. I actually do have a backup in my desk in the shade Vanilla. And I just want to choose this foundation because I go through it so quickly. I am almost done. I have like a little bit left of this Vanilla, so I'm glad that I have a backup. And then the Alabaster, this is a newer one to me, so I still have quite a bit left. And the Glow, I have about like 3/4 left because I don't use it as often because it's a little bit too dark for me. But I absolutely love that product so much. I'm going to move on. Let's talk about this. This is the Surratt Dewdrop Foundation, and I would classify this very similarly to this Chantecaille. I have the Surratt in the shade 4. I will say this can run a little bit warm, so this is a little bit too warm tone for me, but it does work really well. This is probably like my perfect match when I, again, have a self-tan on when it's kind of faded a little bit. But this is a really gorgeous foundation because, again, it gives you that really beautiful skin-like finish. It has a little bit of light refracting properties, but it doesn't have shimmer or sparkle to it. But it refracts the light in a way where, again, your skin looks very blurred without it adding a lot of coverage. Very, very similar to the Chantecaille, but I think if I had to pick one, I still would pick the Chantecaille. I really do love this Surratt one. Again, it doesn't have a fragrance to it. That's really nice, and this is really beautiful and lovely on the skin. I would say it's like the tiniest bit more glowy on the skin than the Chantecaille. The Chantecaille is a little bit more of a skin finish, where the Surratt gives a little bit more of a glow, but it is a really beautiful one. And then, actually, I do have more tinted moisturizer products. So this is the Chanel Le Beige Water Fresh Tint, and this is the most no makeup product that I have in my collection. It's even lighter coverage than like this product or even my Peau, the foundation. This has the lightest amount of coverage. This is basically a skin tint. It is going to give you sheer coverage. It's going to be undetectable on your skin. If I want to run out the door and just use one product, because a lot of the times if you add a complexion product on, be it a tinted moisturizer, even something that has light coverage, I find that I'll still need to go in with just a tiny bit of concealer and a blush or something, just because sometimes products that have coverage, they can just take a little bit of the life out of your skin. So you do need to add complexion products back in, like a bronzer or a blush or a highlighter. That's why we have those products. However, with this Chanel Water Fresh Tint, I can just go in with this and it doesn't take the life out of your skin because it just has that really gorgeous skin-like finish. It is very water-based, so it does look very glowy when you initially apply it, but as you wear it, it does dry down. It doesn't dry down to like a powder finish or anything where it is too drying on the skin, but it does dry down, and I don't find that I have to powder it. But again, this is just a really nice product to use if I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm in a rush and I have to put on something really quickly and I don't want to go out with no makeup. I'll just apply just this product and it'll be fine. Or if I want to go for a more no makeup look and apply like a very light concealer or a little bit of a blush, I can always use this. And this is something where literally you will wear it and people will compliment your skin looking beautiful versus your makeup looking beautiful. They'll say, wow, your skin looks really healthy and juicy and glowy. What are you using on your skin? Versus it being like, oh, I like your foundation, because you literally cannot tell you're wearing foundation when you wear this product. It's quite a magical product, and I've never tried anything quite as beautiful as this. and it does such a good job. I know that a lot of companies have come out with dupes of this, but the original is the way to go. This is the best one I've tried. I do have the shade Medium Plus. It is a little bit too deep for me. Medium is the better one. I was trying to be very tanned, I think. And then they also came out with the Chanel Le Beige Water Fresh Complexion Touch. This is actually my second bottle of this. I've gone through probably, I want to say like 6 bottles of this. This is like my most repurchased product. That's the one thing you do run through it faster because you probably use it a little bit more. Like you have to use 2 pumps of it on your face for it to even look super sheer on the skin. But this one is a more concentrated version of the Water Fresh Tint. So basically this is like the concealer version. So it is a little bit smaller because originally it was thought to be, you use this product as a foundation and then you use this as your concealer. However, I like to use this just as a foundation. This mixed together, this is actually gorgeous mixed together because this is going to give you more of the coverage level of the Chantecaille Future Skin Gel Foundation, but you get a little bit more of that blurred effect. Again, these are all blurring foundations, everything I'm talking about, because I will not have a foundation that's not blurring. I just don't love that kind of look. So it just makes your skin look more even, a little bit more blurred. This color works a little bit better for me. This is in the shade B30 and it works really beautifully for me. So these are little like pigment beads, and when you pump them out onto your skin, you basically have to break up the beads, and once you break up those beads, it leaves behind this pigment. And again, this has more coverage, but it just looks so juicy and so fresh on the skin. So there's just something so healthy about this product when you apply it on your skin. So it's just a very youthful looking product. And again, even though it looks glowy initially, it does eventually dry down. So I don't find that I necessarily need to powder it. If you did have oily skin, you might want to. But this is, again, a really nice complexion product that I use when I want something that's easy, when I want something that looks like skin, that looks really natural looking. And I love that product as well. So I'm kind of going from like lighter coverage to fuller coverage options. Let's next talk about this Dior Forever Hydra Nude foundation. I was having really bad luck with Dior foundations, and I basically didn't like any of their foundations for the longest time. And then they released this foundation. Actually, they released, I think, the stick foundation before that. So I really fell in love with this. And then they released this foundation, and I was so surprised by this because I absolutely love it. The one downfall to this is that there is a very strong fragrance to it, so I don't love that, and for that reason, I will not use this every day. But this is basically identical to the Chantecaille Future Skin Foundation. These are very, very, very similar. This is a little thicker, I want to say, but they're not, honestly, maybe not, because this does have that gel consistency, but this also feels like a gel foundation when you pump it out. It's honestly so similar to the Chantecaille, obviously, except that it has that very strong fragrance. But yeah, it is that thicker kind of texture, and it feels almost like a gel. Like, it feels very cooling on your skin when you apply it. And I love this because, again, this looks like skin. This looks like your natural skin, and it also has a very beautiful skin-like finish. I find that a lot of light coverage foundations, they are so glowy on the skin. A lot of lighter coverage foundations or tinted moisturizers, for some reason, they just make those products so greasy and so glowy. But this one has a beautiful skin-like finish. And I just love how it wears every time I wear it. Like, it wears all day long. I have no issues. Like, I never have to touch up. It never looks greasy. It never separates weirdly by the end of the day. But I do find these very similar in how they wear and how they blur on the skin, how they look on the skin. I think I prefer the Chantecaille one a little bit more. It's like slightly more blurring. But this is a very close second, and this is obviously less expensive than the Chantecaille one. But however, you do have the added fragrance. And I wear the shade 2.5N. I could probably do 2N, especially if I'm lighting up my tan, etc. But this is a pretty good match for me. It's like pretty dead on when I have a tan on. Next on the list is this Chanel Sublimage Le Teint. You guys have heard me talk about this on and on and on. I have 2 shades of this, the shade B40, which again, a little bit too deep for me, and the shade B30, which is kind of perfect when I'm self-tanned. B40 works for me when I'm like freshly self-tanned, but then as it fades, B30 is perfect. Gorgeous, gorgeous foundation. This is, again, a very skin-like, beautiful foundation that is more on the hydrating side, I would say. So if you were someone that liked the Chanel Sublimage Le Teint but thought it was just too mattifying and too drying, This is the hydrating version of this foundation. So it's a little bit more thinner, more of a serum texture, but you still get that beautiful blurred effect that this one gives you, but you just get a more hydrated finish. This has a little bit less coverage in this foundation as well. So I just like this more for an everyday foundation or a special foundation, a special occasion foundation. I always describe the finish of this foundation as just elegant. Like it just looks like elegance on your skin. It's my fancy foundation. It's a foundation I always reach for, again, for special occasions when I want my skin to just look beautiful and slightly more glowing. It just has this gorgeous effect. Similar, again, in coverage to the Chanel, there's the Chantecaille Future Skin Gel Foundation. However, this is more glowy. The Chanel is more glowy than the Chantecaille, which has that true skin-like finish. This is more glowy, and I would say you could probably build it on the skin a little bit more to a true medium coverage. But one of my favorites, I continue to repurchase this. I've probably gone through 4 or 5 of these. And again, this was my mom's Holy Grail foundation. She loved this as well. I think she's gone through 4 or 5 of these as well. This is a product I know I can get her at Christmas time because she loves it so much. Although I think I'll be getting her the Chantecaille one from now on. But it's just such a good foolproof foundation that I can't get enough of. We just have a few more to go through. This Prada foundation, I do really love, but I don't think I will repurchase it when I finish it. And I think it's because it does make me break out. When I use it continuously, I notice a little bit of breakouts, and I don't know if it's because of the SPF in this or something. There is maybe a little bit of a fragrance to it. Yes, there is a fragrance to it. So maybe it's the fragrance that is doing it for me, but it's a little bit perfumey. But this is the Prada Reveal foundation in the shade MN40. Again, a gorgeous blurring foundation. I would say these two are very, very similar. However, the Prada has the similar coverage level and finish. Prada has a little bit more coverage to it, and it's also more of a skin velvet matte finish. So probably actually more comparable to the Chanel Le Teint. However, a little bit less coverage than just the Chanel Le Teint, but it has that same blurred effect to it. It's a really nice foundation when I want a little bit more coverage and I want to be matte without being too drying matte, which is what this one sometimes gives me. You know what? I'm going to declutter this foundation. I've decided. I just don't wear it enough, and I would rather reach for the Prada one than that. Because, again, this is a little bit less mattifying than that Chanel foundation and has like a tiny, tiny bit less coverage. They're very, very similar though. But sometimes this can look just a little bit too cakey because it's a thicker formula. So I have to be super careful with how much product I use, which again, if you're getting ready for a special occasion, sometimes you just don't want to risk that. Where this is such a thin formula that I never have that risk. So this is a really beautiful foundation and I really love it. And then this was another contender that I was unsure of just because I've had it for a really long time and I don't reach for it all the time, but it is really beautiful. And this is the Peau Radiant Cream Foundation. I honestly only have this much left, so I kind of just want to go through it. And then I don't think I will repurchase this foundation because I just have other Peau favorites. So again, let me explain. Peau Radiant Cream Foundation. Again, I think I'm just going to go through this and then I won't repurchase, but this is in the shade 030. Similar coverage level to the Chanel Le Teint foundation. However, this is glowy. This is radiant on the complexion. If you have dry skin, this is going to be your dream foundation because it is truly hydrating and it doesn't fully set down, which I think is my kind of one issue with it, is that like it will completely transfer if you get too close to someone, if you hug someone. It doesn't dry down completely, but that is really good if you have really mature, really dry skin, really crepey skin that you just have a problem with foundations maybe settling in. I think you would really like this one, but it is very glowy, very radiant, but it is very blurring on the skin as well. And I really do like that because again, it's a fuller coverage foundation that gives you radiance, but is also blurring. Kind of a contradiction there, but I do really like this. I do wear the shade 030. But I don't think I would repurchase it. I just think this is for a select group of people. I kind of want my mom to try this as well. So maybe I'll get her to do that before I get rid of it. And then we just have a few more foundations. So let's just do the cushions first. So this, because I like this foundation so much, is why I don't think I'd repurchase this. But this is the Peau Radiant Cushion Foundation Dewy. I have the shade 030 Medium Ochre. Again, I think I would do more of a B30 next time to make it more of a neutral tone. This is quite warm toned on me. But it does match me pretty well. It's just like a hair too dark, especially as my tan fades. But I love this foundation. Again, blurring filtered effect foundation. You get that same radiance or glow to the foundation that this foundation gives you, but this one dries down on the skin a little bit better, so you're not going to get as much of that transfer effect. Again, it doesn't dry down to a powder finish or anything like that, but it just doesn't feel tacky or sticky. You can go over top and use powder products. You don't necessarily have to powder your skin. So I really like that I can just use this more at ease than this one. This one can feel a little bit sticky sometimes, and this one does feel like it dries down. But again, it gives you health, plumpness, radiance to your skin, but you still got that blurred and filtered effect. This has really nice coverage as well, similar to the Prada foundation. That's the kind of coverage it gives you. So I really like this because I can really manipulate this foundation because it is a fuller coverage foundation. If you just go in with like a hair of product and really work it into the skin, you can really blur it out on your skin so that it actually looks like a skin-like finish. Like you can get the type of coverage of this Chantecaille Future Gel Foundation if you just use a tiny bit of product, but also you can build it up. So I always recommend these fuller coverage products if you are just looking for one foundation and you want to use it in a variety of different ways. Because these types of foundations, you can just use them in such a variety of different ways. You can really manipulate them. So that's why I always recommend a fuller coverage foundation. You can just get so much use out of them. You can thin them out, you can build them up. So it's just easier than buying all these different foundations. It's just so beautiful. And again, this is my mom's. So my mom told me that this is now her favorite foundation. And then the Clé de Peau Cushion Foundation. And then I guess number 3 would be the Chanel Sublimage. So if you have mature skin, I think you will love this product. It's so phenomenal. It's so gorgeous. I can use it throughout the summer, even though it's hotter and humid and it is more glowy. But again, it doesn't ever look greasy on the skin, but I can also use it in the winter. I love it in the winter. And then another cushion foundation, very similar coverage level to this Clé de Peau, which I find interesting because usually cushions are very light coverage, but this is actually more of a medium coverage. And this is the Chantecaille Future Skin Cushion Foundation. So this is a skincare infused cushion foundation, essentially. I do have the shade Nude, and that's like a perfect match for me. And I love this cushion foundation because I think this might be the most blurring foundation in my collection. It is very filtered on the skin. Again, I won't shut up about that. I love that about these foundations. But this is more mattifying. It's definitely like, this is more radiant. This is definitely a skin like velvet matte finish. So when I want long wear and it's again really hot outside, I will reach for this product. But again, you can use this in such a variety of different ways because you can just use a teensy tiny bit of product and really sheer it out and get that really beautiful skin-like finish. But you can build it up on the skin and you can get that fuller coverage look as well. So I like that I can use it in a variety of different ways and it's so beautiful. I also really love to use this as a mixer. So if I do want a little bit more long wear out of, I don't know, maybe like this tinted moisturizer, I'll mix these together and it just creates such a beautiful mix every time. Obviously, if you have a lot of foundations, try mixing them together because you can get the most beautiful results from that. But if you're just looking for one foundation, this is also a really nice one. If you have more normal combo oily skin, this might be the better cushion foundation for you versus the Clé de Peau one, just because this is more hydrating, this is more mattifying. But I can use them on my dry skin and they work beautifully. And then the last foundation, again, see, I have too many foundations. I could probably stand to get rid of a few more, but I got rid of one, so that's fine. So this is the Dior Forever Skin Perfect Stick Foundation. I have this in the shade 2.5N. It's a perfect match for me. And I love this foundation because, well, first, it's great for traveling because you can just throw it in your bag and it doesn't count as a liquid. When I go away, I want to just carry a carry-on bag. I don't want to check in my bag. And I live in Canada, so a lot of flights are international, where you just have that tiny little pouch to carry your liquids in. So it's so nice. I can just take away that and have a stick foundation. And I took this to Mexico where it was really hot. I also took this to Hawaii where it was obviously really hot. And it worked perfectly. It was not too dewy of a foundation. Even though I would classify this as a more hydrating foundation, it still worked really well in those climates. And I was really surprised, but it held up gorgeously. This is more of a medium coverage foundation, buildable to a fuller coverage. But again, because it starts off at the medium coverage, you can really sheer it out on the skin. So I can get more of a skin tint effect like this Dior one. If I just really thin it out on the skin, go in with my skincare maybe 10 minutes before and just really, really work it in and sheer it out with a tiny, tiny bit of product. So you can get a skin tint look out of this, but it is buildable up to a fuller coverage, and it's just gorgeous, and it gives you a more hydrated look. I would say if you have oily skin, you might not like this foundation because this is a little bit more glowy. But this is, even though it's glowy, it is a beautiful pore blurring foundation. So if you have texture on your skin, I feel like you'll really like this. If you have more of a drier skin type as well. Such a beautiful product. I really like it for the ease of application. It's just, again, so convenient, which I love. Again, if you're a working girl, I would recommend one of these products. If you're traveling all the time and you need a product on the go that's not too messy, that's not breakable, these types of products are going to be gorgeous for you. And I love this. It's not as expensive as some of these luxury foundations that I've talked about, but it gives you a luxury result. And it just looks beautiful every time I wear it. I'm always impressed by how my makeup looks, how it wears. It wears very beautifully. All these foundations that I'm talking about, they wear a very long time because I want to be able to, sometimes I only wear my foundations for 4 hours a day, but I want to have the option that I can wear my foundations for 10 plus hours and them not look terrible at the end of the day. For me, that is a deal breaker. So all these foundations reflect that. And I'm just going to shut up and stop talking. I am going to do more videos, obviously, and break it down like my concealers, my bronzers, because I decluttered my whole entire collection. It was seriously so overwhelming, but I'm so happy I did it. My boyfriend and I are moving in together. The house has been bought, so I am renting out my place, and I just wanted to do a big declutter before I moved so that everything felt fresh and new going into a new place. I wanted to just downsize, so I feel really good about my collection. I'm still probably going to downsize a little bit when I move. I would like to get rid of 2 more of these foundations. Besides that, I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. Let me know some of your favorite foundations in your collection. I'd love to hear your top 3. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Like this video if you like it, and I'll see you in my next video.